Okay, well, having cut the rail off, we're about to make a new one for it. But the beauty of having half the rail off that chassis is it gives us the ability to look down into the chassis and just inspect and see how bad the corrosion actually is. And you can see that it's quite extensive. It's caused it to swell right through here, and that's starting to lift away from there. So clearly there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But in doing any good restoration work, you've got to do the prep work. You've got to get all the pattern making right. You've got to make sure that you have the right information there on hand. So you can see that we've taken a profile of that actual rail and we've made that. So when we make the new section up, it'll sit over the top of that and lock that into position. And of course, we've got this beautiful Daimler system table, which allows us to reference off the floor and know that we're within 0.1 of a millimetre. So now what I've done is I've made a timber template which captures the true form and profile of the actual chassis rail. The next phase, of course, is to then take this to a laser cutter where they'll scan the data, they'll digitise that form and fabricate this out of steel for me, which is critical for helping me shape this metal. So this is a business end of things where we've clamped the metal up, we've sandwiched it between two very thick sections of steel. Underneath we have two 20mm sections. On the top we have a 10mm section. And in between all of that is sandwiched the metal that we're going to actually use to make the body with, or make the chassis rail with. Now, I've deliberately set it up on this table for a number of reasons, because I can clamp it so precisely and so effectively and very, very easily. It's just simply coming across and squeezing it down and starting to wind some pressure up on the table. And as you can see, it just winds it all nice and tight like a giant, great big vise and locks it all down into position. Now, for some reason, I wanted to change that. Just simply undo, lift it, swap it around, and away you go. So this Daimler system is just fantastic for this kind of work. So the table is being used for two separate things. It's being used to actually act as a surface table and a point of reference, but it's also being used as a forming mechanism so I can build this chassis rail. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work the metal progressively along in a uniformed way, so I don't just work one edge down and then leave the rest up. I'm going to work it down very slowly. Now, there's one thing you always need to remember is safety is paramount with this stuff, so make sure you're always wearing glasses and you're wearing earmuffs. Now you can see here, what's starting to happen is the metal is starting to gather in certain spots. That's obviously through a radius. So what's going to happen is as I work that edge down, that is going to become more pronounced as it gets to a 90-degree angle. So at that point, I'll have to cold forge that out and make it look like it was never there. So I'll pull those shrinks out using some machinery and some old school skills.